Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I'm your host, Jill, time management strategist, author, and award winning speaker and advocate for all things growth in motherhood. A really quick reminder that if you're listening today, you can actually also catch this episode on YouTube and see the conversation that I'm having with Elyna live and in action. I am so excited to have this guest here today. Elyna is a business mentor of mine and a colleague and a friend, and she is so incredibly talented at really getting to the middle of whatever it is we're looking at, busting it open in a really truthful way. I love that about you. You speak such authenticity in everything you do, and I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, Jill. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, can you give the listeners an idea of the type of work you do in sort of as much detail as feels right to share with regards to how you got there and what you do and all the things?
Definitely. I'm a business coach. I think of myself more as a business strategist, although I think we're pretty used to using the word coach, so I'll throw that one in there.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say the unique part of how I look at things is from having a lot of experience being inside of businesses. So I'm really working with people on how to actually make what they're dreaming up, what they're wanting, reality, very tangibly. And I come at this from the angle of we're all different. We all have different natures. And let's look to literal nature to see a role model, different role models for how we can create. So my academic background is in earth sciences, and I look at like, how do volcanoes create? How do oceans create? How do rivers create? And I layer that on top of the inner workings of people. And I have found that this perspective is also very helpful for those of us, me included, who consider ourselves neurodiverse, because we don't think the way that society has kind of been set up to have us think that we should think. So there's a lot of undoing of that in our minds. And I find that looking at nature, because nature is neurodiverse, it's a great way to get a different idea of different ways of building and creating.
Yeah, I love that. And I was lucky enough to sit through a workshop that you did explaining the major types of forces of nature that we all fall into. And I found out my type by doing your quiz, which we want to make sure everyone takes. Is it at forceofnaturequiz.com?
You nailed it.
Amazing.
Forceofnaturequiz.com.
It's nice when it's so easy. People can remember, but we will put it in the show notes, of course. So you can just click it instead of typing it. And you should go take the quiz if you're listening and you're a business person. And even if you're not a business person, this is still a really good quiz to give you so much insight on how you show up, and maybe some of the motivations on why you're experiencing what you're experiencing over and over again in your life. Do you want to dive into them a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, we can touch on them. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I've created six. Um, of course, there's many different types of nature, but as I had a chit chat with Mama Earth, she was very content with me finding six to six to get the message across. And these six came out of, I don't know, over 10 years of experience in small businesses. And so I really was mapping out of all the different styles of, I would say creating, but someone else might say running a business or leadership, but to me, behind it all is really creating and how someone's mind's working. I identified six. So there's river, volcano, earthquake, wildfire, wind, and ocean. And let's see, rivers, well, I'm gonna keep it super simple. Rivers flow and weave and need riverbanks to keep them going. Volcanoes get bored, get a fiery buildup of a new idea and need to immediately move forward and act on it. I call the volcanoes the empire builders because they do this again and again. Beyonce is a volcano. Taylor Swift is wind. So we'll go to wind next. Wind types get a lot of new, fresh ideas very easily, and they like to follow them because that's what feels alive and fresh and new. Wind types need some support, keeping the business steady, keeping the substance of what the real work is grounded and ever present, because they like to follow what's new and fresh. They're always on the cutting edge. Earthquake types are polarity unifiers. These are I find a lot of earthquake types teaching and doing shadow work. They get below the surface and they find humor and the midpoint where a lot of the rest of us see black and white. They see, oh, that's all connected. They're either considered genius or crazy, depending on who's looking at them. Wildfire types are headstrong, super astute in what their gifts are, what their sight is. They can see through bullshit. And their gift is that they're very focused in their one direction. So these are not the people to be like gracefully holding multiple perspectives at one time. Ocean types, the deep divers, the super deep divers. These are the people that love to do immense emotional work with others, get into the depths. These people thrive and are sought out for being deep and understanding, and will peel through a lot of the complicated layers of our psyche. And they struggle with day-to-day things, like doing what they would consider the surface stuff. They're pretty uninterested in the surface stuff because they love the depths. And then who am I missing? River, earthquake,
Got them all.
wildfire,
Volcano?
wind,
Did volcano,
ocean,
river?
volcano. Did I do them all?
Did.
River, volcano, earthquake, wind, wildfire, ocean. We did them all.
We did them all.
Okay, great. I think that's the fastest I've ever explained them. Boom.
I love it. And
So,
of course, like if anyone wants to deep dive, the quiz is the place to do it. And I'm sure that just listening, you heard yourself in at least one of those that you felt strongly like, oh yes, that speaks to me, right?
very much. The quiz is designed to identify your strongest one. In the long run, we want to hone all of these inside of us. When you can access all these different forces of nature inside of yourself, you're pretty unstoppable. And to get started, to get more ease in our businesses and our lives quickly, we start with the one that I consider nature's gifted us with. So Jill's a volcano. Jill's a river. I'm a volcano. If we lean into these, when we lean into these, quickly we can access a bit more ease, which is, I think at this point, what most women just need running their own businesses. So it's like ease first. And then from there, we can hone the others.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about working with you is that you're always like, okay, that's too much. Like, can we just bring it in? Like, can we make it easier to explain, easier for the person to digest, easier to like, let's make it more, and it's not simple. You always have the best words for it too, but it's this idea of really getting clear and not wasting energy and effort when less will sometimes do in terms of words, right?
Very much. Very
Yeah.
much. I find that Yeah, from my experience coaching a lot of people in the process of building their businesses, that is the major place I see people stall out, lose bandwidth, lose energy, get hard on themselves. Basically, I very simply, we could use the word block, or stuck spot. But I find that that's the biggest one, is when we're not making something as simple as it could be in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to know, like, when you're working with clients, are you seeing any trends right now that are like universally being experienced? Like, we know it's a crazy time to be alive. It's a crazy time in a lot of ways. And I'm just curious because I know like the struggles that I'm having, and I'm wondering if these are common, like common themes that you're seeing. What are people coming to you for? What are they wanting to work through? What are those like blocks?
Yeah. One of the common ones that I see that I think is also, I think it's, I think it's growing across the board. And I do think these people seek me out.
Right.
um, but this trend of wanting to work for ourselves because we can now. There's enough easy to use technology that you can get going doing your own business. And it's also growing in the culture. Um, and also, I find that a lot of very smart women are uninterested with the jobs that are available. So they're really starting their own businesses because otherwise they're really bored.
Right.
So um, all of these things combined have it be that more women are wanting to work for themselves. They don't want to be fake. They don't want to play this hustle and grind game. They're uninterested with the old game. And so they're having to figure out a new way to do business that both has a foot in the old way, because that's literally the world we live in, but also has a foot in their new way. And to do all of this without overdoing it or burning out, which is a very hard task. No,
Yes.
nowadays you don't need to just be good at what you do. You need to figure out how to run a business, which is an entirely different skill set than being a good therapist, a good artist, a good coach. You have to know your craft really well, but then you also have to figure out bookkeeping, tracking the money, marketing, how to do your marketing. If not you, who to hire for marketing. Is hiring that person within budget? How much more would you need to charge to have that help be available? Like, these are all things that in a larger company, CEOs or managers or directors would be handling. We don't have any of that. So I find that there's a very large trend of being stretched thin, which is the downside. But the upside is there's a very large trend of figuring out new ways of doing things that actually work better and grow us into the lives we really want to be living. So I feel like with any, I'm always looking at things from the perspective of there's a blessing and every blessing has its downside. Like, just as a sword has two sides, that's how I look at any of our genius gifts. There's the upside and the downside.
Hmm. Yes, and sometimes it's more pleasing for us to only consider the upside, but we really need to look at that other, like I guess we can call it the shadow side or the opposite or the downside
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah,
important
downside
too.
kind of implies it's not good, but maybe we just say the flip side.
Flip side. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that place in my own work right now. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at my craft and really honed my brain and skill set, and the place that I'm seeing the natural flip side of being someone who really wants to be good at what they do. The flip side is uh, I'm not great at realizing what all the support things are in life that I need to have
Mm.
me be that on when I'm on. So in my life, I'm up against overbooking my days, realizing that too many social events really truly drains me, even though I want to go. Um, an earlier bedtime that allows me time to read and decompress is really needed. And that sounds lovely. And sometimes it is. Other times I'm like, I don't want to go to bed yet. I'm not ready to go to bed yet. But those nights when I don't, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna stay up and watch a little thing more. I wake up angry.
Yep.
So I'm really my flip side of being like super on, super smart brain genius is like, yeah, it actually takes a lot more bandwidth than I've ever realized. And I
Right.
have to get that in check.
Yeah, it's that component of really being self-aware, right? Of where the energy is going and how to manage it. It's this energy management thing. And I just could talk for hours about that. I think it's such a missed opportunity for a lot of business people because we're not focused on it. We're focused on the work. We're focused on, you know, this this maybe myth of self-care or this kind of like, okay, we've got the work and then we've got to take care of ourselves and that's kind of okay. But we don't dive deep enough to really understand all the time how energetically we're getting replenished, right? Because I know that, um, that's a big part of your world too, is this like being connected and understanding and being intuitive. And so listening to your own body, listening to the business, listening to all the different pieces that can give you information on like, okay, Elyna, it's time for bed. Well, I don't want to go to bed, but maybe if, future Elyna, we can make her happy right now. But I get it. I totally get it. We all struggle with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that people don't talk about so much in growing your work and growing business. Because I mean, who gets paid the most money in the business industry? It's copywriters, it's marketing people, because that's where so many of us struggle, and that's where the flashy numbers are. Like, do this and you can make more. Do
Yeah.
this and you can make more. It's needed. It's so real, and I don't mean to put it down, but because that gets so much of the flash in us, we're the ones giving it the flash. The natural cycles of, I guess very simply, the natural cycles aren't looked at so much. They're not so flashy. They're not so flashy.
Mhm.
Um, and I find that everyone truly committed to growing their work over time is facing exactly what you said. There's a period where they realize they cannot take on anymore until they get better at energy management. And then they hone it in, often not from inspiration, but desperation. It'd be great if we could move it to inspiration. And then when they do hone it in, then they're able to grow and then they're able to take on more. And then ironically, they have to do the exact same thing. And that's the spiral. That's how nature moves. The planet moves around the sun, not in a circle, in a spiral, because the sun is moving away from the big the big star in the middle of of the galaxy. So it's spiraling and the Earth's spiraling. And I think we forget that this spiraling is the core shape inside of nature, the core momentum inside of nature, and that's what's happening in our businesses too. We're spiraling, not in like a bad spiral, but a good growth spiral. And until you master your next round of energy management, you can't take on more clients. You can't grow those programs. You'll collapse.
Right.
And we see it. I see it all the time. It's not theoretical. You will collapse. It will collapse. You will be very, very stressed out. And if you're a mom, which I've been behind the scenes in a variety of businesses where it's a mom who's running it, the impact on the whole family is so intense.
It's real. Yeah, totally. And of course it is because as much as we like to try to compartmentalize our work and our home life and all the different pieces of ourselves, all the different versions of ourselves, they're interconnected because we're the common denominator. So of course we're going to have sort of ripple effect from one into the next. And it happens. And I think that's why a lot of guilt happens, specifically with moms, because you're bringing in like the home stuff into work and then you're bringing the work stuff into home because you didn't get it done. And it's like, it's a constant struggle. But I think everybody struggles with that piece. And, we all have some work to do. It's true.
And I see it on both sides as well. I feel like I see the hard side, which is when it's a mom who also has the overexpansion before the energy management is obtained and the crash, it's really hard on the whole family. And I also see on the other side, and sometimes it's the same person in the next cycle, where because they're a mom, they refuse to have the same type of collapse that someone who's not a mom will just be like, oh, I'll just accept that. I'll just accept a complete collapse of my life and digging through my savings account and, not having my house quite clean for like 3 months because I just completely burned out and collapsed. I find that often moms are not willing to put their family through that. And so there's also a way that moms will prevent a full collapse and be more discerning and disciplined, which I've been really impressed by. Because there's been times in my life where I'm like, wow, I don't have another being that needs me so much that I have to look at this stuff so carefully. Whereas a lot of moms are like, yeah, no, no, this isn't working. I need help. I need
Yes.
help now because the consequences are too great.
Yeah, it's so true. And when you put it like that, it's really quite impressive. Moms running businesses like this, we're doing the thing, guys. If you are a mom
Yeah.
listening to this, like, bravo. It is not easy. Of course, we know that, but to have that reflected back is really special. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I also find moms are more motivated by truly how to monetize what they're doing in a really great way. Whereas I see people starting out who aren't moms, they're like, it's fine. It's fine if my business isn't really making money for a while, which sometimes is fine because you're truly just getting better at what you do. And when you're better at what you do, you feel way more confident. And so sometimes it works out fine. But moms, again, where they're like, no, I don't have time for that. I don't have time
Mhm.
for that shit. Like,
Yeah.
no, we need to make money doing this work. So I find that there's a hard line that they set for themselves that I also am often very inspired by. They're like, yeah, doing this with not that much return is not worth it, so I'm not doing it. And I
Right.
think that's a really good quality to have as a business owner as you grow. And I feel like I see a lot of moms start out with that one.
Hmm. I'm curious what your favorite piece of the business coaching, we'll call it, for lack of a more succinct term, but like, what's your favorite piece of that? Because I hear you talking about the strategy and you're an excellent copywriter. And I hear you talking about the different pieces. Like, do you just have your fingers in all the pots and love it all? Or is there a specific area where you really feel like it's home?
My most favorite part is the really deep work I get to do with people. So my largest the deepest way, I would say the deepest way someone can work with me is there's a 2-day in-person deep dive. And it's in that work that I get to how to say it? Let's say use my spidey senses. I get to do these deep dive, mythic, psychic for lack of a better word, but I have this ability to be able to tune in with people in silence and be able to tune into why are they really here? Like, what is this person really connected to? And I like to do, my favorite is getting to really dive in with that with someone. And then from there, we have a much clearer map to their work because we know the most we know the most core aspects. And so I feel like my strategy brain always gets to be used in pretty much all of my work, which I love because I think that my brain just likes to use that ability that it has. But it's in that mythic realm, pulling from the mythic realm into the very pragmatic, real realm that I think my deepest gifts get used. Yeah, and people are usually that only really is a good place to go when someone already has the foundations kind of set. Um, so I kind of need to help get people to a stabilized place, and then we can go there. But to try to go there without a sense of stability in your business isn't so fruitful.
Right. And I love that there's different levels and you're so aware of like meeting people where they're at with the work too, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest complaints in the industry is that people are not the people leading and teaching are so often not actually meeting people where they're at, and they don't mean to. They don't mean to not. They don't It's not a malicious act. It's just not other people's skill set, so they're teaching things and people are coming to learn what they're teaching, but the people coming don't even realize that that's not quite what they need yet. And so people end up spending a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, not actually getting what they need in the right order. And then they feel dumb, and they feel dumber and dumber and badder, I'm going with that word, badder at what they do. And it doesn't need to be that way.
Right. Yeah. You need to have someone who can identify it and help you like really pinpoint the things that you're kind of blind to almost, right?
You are.
Yeah.
None of us went, I mean, pretty much none of us went to school to grow a conscious and heartfelt business built on our deepest understandings, mythic map, and wounds and gifts in life. Like that was not, that was not what we studied. And so we are all blind.
And it's like so many of us don't even know that that's the articulation of what we're trying to do,
Totally.
right? Like
Totally.
we
Yeah,
hear that and
they
we're
just
like,
I need to make more money. I need to make more money. And I'm like, if you really need to make more money, go get a job.
yeah.
Like, truly, go get a job to help support you figuring this out. Because it is not a day and night. You don't just wake up and all of a sudden you know how to run a business. You're great at your craft. You
And people are
figured out
knocking on your door.
marketing.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
It takes time. And it's like, I've learned and I keep learning that this journey of entrepreneurship really is a journey of personal growth at the same time and spiritual growth. And it's all intertwined, which is why it takes so long sometimes. Because like the destination changes as you grow, right? Like your journey, it changes. And that's why it can sometimes feel so lonely and so much like there are so many challenges in it. But the key is to have the right people supporting you, I think. And I really think that having community and support and leaders that have been there and can see things from an outside perspective that you trust that land with you, it's like game changer. Game changer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I would add to that, as anyone pursues finding those people, also pay attention to, do you like how their business feels? Like, find teachers and leaders and mentors who, even if their industry is not the exact same, like, you like how their business feels, because I find a lot of people seek out teachers who are behind the scenes running really exhausting businesses. And so you end up pursuing a way of doing business that actually is not one you want. So I know for me, I I am not interested in running a business where I have to always be on and checking my phone and checking emails and stuff. For other people, it's actually a very fun thing. They're always engaged, they're always connected. I know those people. They thrive with that. For me, that truly exhausts me on a very deep level and doesn't allow me to show up in a way that feels good. So I've had to be very discerning with the mentors I've sought out, because I've been behind the scenes in a lot of these 7-figure businesses that look amazing, but behind the scenes I'm like, oh yeah, I never want to run a business like that. Someone else does. It's not that it's bad. That's not for me. And so
Right.
I think that's also a blind spot for a lot of us. We see the shiny thing up front, and we don't think to ourselves, do I actually want that as my mentor? Because do I want a business like that?
Right.
Yeah.
And it just brings us so perfectly full circle to how we started this conversation with understanding what it takes for you to show up as your best. Like you were saying, you need to say no to some more of those socials, even though you want to go. You need to go to bed early, even though sometimes you want to stay up and watch that next show. It's like that understanding of, okay, well, that does feel shiny and like I want that, but going the layer deeper, understanding, okay, well, what does that actually mean in practicality in real life? And I think
It's
that
been
that,
very humbling. It's been a very humbling experience.
yeah. And
Yeah.
should we all be so lucky, right? It's work to do that.
It is work to do that. And yeah, I'm I'm glad I do it. That's, but I would say that I think I only really know this to be true from truly being in these worlds for over 13 years. Like, I don't think people realize that how key this part of it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's super important. Yeah, it's been such a good the learning more about my own neurodivergence. I've recently figured out that I am autistic, and it's given me so much permission to pay way more attention to what I actually need to be doing well. Because previously, and I think this is a case for a lot of people who identify as autistic, um, that you 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 search for a very long time for what is going to help you, and you can't figure out what you need. So you end up doing a lot of different therapy, you end up reading a lot of different books, but you're doing all this because there's something different about you and you cannot figure it out. And so it's a common trend. I've been learning that when people find out that they are autistic, so many people are like, what a relief, thank God, because it finally puts a phrase and verbiage to something that they have been feeling for so long. And for me, it's been with this understanding that I actually truly am autistic. I am diagnosed. That has given me so much ability to be kinder on myself and to get truly curious. What do I need? Instead of, oh, I should be able to work an 8-hour day. I should be able to do 5 hours of calls. No, I can't actually. Like, I cannot do those things. I've done them for years, but the backlash is so great that I can't keep growing my business. I can't keep running things. I collapse.
Right.
So mine is an exaggerated example with the autism, but everyone has this. Everyone has this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. It's just hearing your story and hearing all of the wisdom that you bring is always so special. And for anyone who's kind of watching the YouTube, thank you for covering for me as I lose my lungs over here and asthmatic spasms. Poor Elyna, I'm like, just a sec, I need some water. Just a sec, I'm about to cough up a lung.
It's great.
Um,
It's giving me the ability to bring out my improv theater skills that I
yeah,
haven't used since high school. So,
listen, everything
yeah.
for a reason, I think. But it's been so lovely having you on the show. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with us and your insights. I love your perspectives. And if anyone is listening and wants to learn more and wants to be able to connect with you on a deeper level, where can we send them?
Instagram is the place where I'm the most active. So link will be in the show notes, but it's my name at elyna.pazis. And the best way to get involved with my work in any level is just to take the free quiz. It's free. It's only a couple minutes. It will naturally put you on my email list if you choose. And if you do not like getting emails, I don't send that many, but you can click, don't give me emails, just tell me my force of nature type, and you can get the information that way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill.